The lie about money that keeps you stuck. There's a belief that almost everyone carries about money, and it sounds so reasonable, so logical, that nobody ever questions it long enough to realize how much damage it's actually doing over time. That belief is simple. If you make more money, your life will get easier. Your stress will go down, your problems will shrink, and you'll finally feel like you're getting ahead instead of constantly trying to catch up. And for a brief moment, every time your income increases, that belief feels true. You feel relief, you feel progress, you feel like things are about to change. But then something happens that's so subtle, so gradual, that you barely notice it while it's taking place. Your life begins to expand. Not dramatically, not in a way that feels reckless or irresponsible, but just enough to match the new level of income you've reached. And that's where the problem begins. Because when your income increases, your expectations quietly increase with it. Things that once felt optional start to feel necessary. Things that once felt like upgrades start to feel normal. And before you realize what's happening, your new level of income no longer feels like progress. It feels like maintenance. At first, it's small. You allow yourself a little more convenience. You spend a little more freely because you finally can. You upgrade certain parts of your life because you've been telling yourself for years that once you made more money, you would. And again, none of this feels wrong. It feels earned. It feels deserved. It feels like you're finally enjoying the results of your effort. But what you don't see in the moment is that every one of those upgrades comes with a hidden cost. Not just financially, but structurally. Because every time you raise your lifestyle, you raise the amount of money required to sustain your life moving forward. And once that new level becomes your normal, it's no longer optional. It's expected. So now, even though you're making more money than you were before, you don't feel ahead. You feel exactly where you were, just with bigger numbers. And that's the part that confuses people. Because on paper, you're doing better. But in reality, nothing has changed. This is what keeps people stuck for years. Not because they aren't working hard, not because they aren't trying, but because every increase in income gets absorbed by an increase in lifestyle. And when that happens, progress disappears. Think about it like this. If you were running on a treadmill and every time you sped up, the treadmill sped up with you, would you ever actually move forward? No, you'd just be working harder to stay in the same place. And that's exactly what happens with money for most people. They increase their effort. They increase their income. But their lifestyle increases at the same pace. So they never actually create distance between where they are and where they want to be. And the longer this continues, the more normal it feels. Because everyone around you is doing the same thing. Everyone is upgrading. Everyone is adjusting. Everyone is maintaining a life that requires constant income just to sustain. So it doesn't feel like a trap. It feels like reality. But it's not reality. It's a pattern. And patterns can be broken. The first step is recognizing that income alone doesn't create progress. Direction does. Because money, by itself, doesn't build anything. It only goes where you send it. And if you consistently send it toward lifestyle, comfort, and consumption, then that's all it will ever create. But if you change the direction even slightly, everything starts to shift. Because now, instead of every dollar being used to maintain your current life, some of it begins to build your future. And that's where real progress begins. The problem is that this shift feels uncomfortable at first, because it goes against what feels natural. When you make more money, the natural instinct is to upgrade your life, to reward yourself, to enjoy the progress you've made. And there's nothing wrong with that. But when that becomes the default response, it prevents you from ever getting ahead. Because you're always increasing your expenses alongside your income. And that eliminates your ability to build anything meaningful over time. So instead of upgrading your lifestyle first, you have to reverse the order. You have to build first, and then upgrade later. That might mean holding your lifestyle steady even when your income increases. It might mean resisting the urge to immediately spend more just because you can. It might mean creating a gap between what you earn and what you spend, even when it feels like you've earned the right to close that gap. Because that gap is where everything happens. That gap is where saving becomes possible. That gap is where investing begins. That gap is what separates people who stay stuck from people who move forward. And once that gap exists, even in a small way, it starts to grow. Because now, your money isn't just being spent, it's being used. It's being directed towards something that has the potential to come back to you in the future. And that's the part most people never experience. Because they never create the space for it to happen. They stay in the cycle of earning and spending, upgrading and maintaining, working and resetting, without ever stepping outside of it long enough to change direction. But once you do step outside of it, everything begins to look different. You start to see expenses for what they really are. You start to question decisions that once felt automatic. You start to recognize that every dollar has a job, whether you assign it intentionally or not. And when you take control of that process, when you start deciding where your money goes instead of letting your lifestyle decide for you, that's when things begin to change in a way that actually lasts. Because now, instead of your income controlling your life, you're controlling your income. You're deciding what gets upgraded and what stays the same. You're choosing when to increase your lifestyle instead of letting it happen automatically. And that shift, while it may seem small, is what creates long-term progress. Because now, your income has the ability to outpace your lifestyle. And when that happens, you finally start to move forward. Not quickly, not dramatically, but consistently. And consistency is what creates results. Not one big decision, not one big moment, but a series of small decisions made in the right direction over time. That's how wealth is built, not through massive income alone, but through controlled growth. And once you understand that, the way you approach money changes completely. You stop chasing more as the only solution, and you start focusing on what happens after you earn it. Because that's where the real difference is made. Not in how much you make, but in what you do with it next. So the next time your income increases, don't ask yourself what you can afford now. Ask yourself what you can build now. Because that one question will change the direction of your money. And when you change the direction, you change the outcome. If this made you see money differently, comment build first, like, share, and subscribe to Simple Money Compounds. Because this is how you stop running in place and finally start moving forward.